Abraham cherished Isaac. This was no ordinary love. Isaac was a miracle, a gift given by God when all hope seemed lost. The son Abraham had longed for, prayed for, had come after years of waiting. Every laugh, every hug was a testament to God's faithfulness. Isaac was the embodiment of God's promise, a promise of descendants as countless as the stars.
I look at my son and see God's goodness. I see the future of my family, the legacy I will leave behind. This is my son, my Isaac, the one I love.
They spent countless hours together, the father sharing stories and wisdom with his son. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Abraham had waited 100 years for this son. Now he was a teenager, full of life and laughter. They explored the wilderness together, shared meals under the open sky, and talked about life and faith. Through Isaac, Abraham saw God's promises coming true. Life was good, the future bright, until the day God asked Abraham to do the unthinkable. Abraham! God's voice boomed, cutting through the stillness of the morning. Abraham knew that voice, the voice that had spoken his destiny into being.
Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will show you.
The words struck Abraham like a thunderbolt. Sacrifice Isaac. His mind reeled, his heart hammered against his ribs. It couldn't be true. Surely he had misheard. This was his son, his beloved Isaac, the child of promise. God wouldn't ask this of him, would he?
How could this be? How could I, who had waited so long for a son, be asked to take his life?
Abraham fell to his knees, his face a mask of disbelief and despair. The weight of God's command pressed down on him, threatening to crush him. The thought of Isaac's laughter silenced forever. His bright eyes dimmed, tore at Abraham's soul. Yet deep within the turmoil, a flicker of something else stirred. Trust, obedience. The God who had given Isaac could also take him away. The journey to Moriah was a blur. Abraham, his heart heavy with sorrow, made preparations. He took Isaac, 2 of his servants, and a donkey loaded with firewood for the burnt offering. As they traveled, Abraham clung to his faith. He knew God was faithful even when his ways were beyond human understanding.
Each step is a battle against the rising tide of despair. I could turn back, I could run. I could defy the God who seems determined to break me.
Yet, a quiet voice whispered in his heart, a voice of faith, of surrender, of trust in the one who held the future in his hands. He looked at Isaac, his young son, walking beside him, unaware of the burden his father carried. Isaac, so full of life, so innocent. How could he go through with it? And yet, how could he refuse God? The journey seemed to stretch on forever, a physical manifestation of the turmoil in Abraham's soul. Days turned into nights, the sun beating down on them as they drew closer to the appointed place. With each passing moment, the weight of his impending sacrifice grew heavier. Moriah, the place of sacrifice. Abraham's eyes fell on the lonely hilltop, a stark silhouette against the rising sun. He built an altar there, his hands moving with a practiced ease that belied the storm raging within him. He bound Isaac, his son, his laughter, his future, placing him upon the altar atop the wood.
Father, what are you doing?
The moment had come, the moment of ultimate surrender, the moment when faith was tested in the fires of unimaginable grief. Abraham's hand trembled as he reached for the knife, the cold steel glinting in the morning light.
Abraham, Abraham!
A voice, urgent and filled with compassion, pierced the silence. Abraham looked up, his heart pounding in his chest. It was the angel of the Lord, her eyes filled with understanding and mercy.
Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.
Relief washed over Abraham, a wave so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. He had passed the test. He had shown God the depth of his faith, the unwavering nature of his obedience. He had trusted even when it hurt beyond measure. Abraham's eyes, blurred with tears, fell on a thicket nearby. There, caught in the thorns, was a ram, God's provision.
His heart overflowed with gratitude as he untied Isaac, embracing him tightly.
He sacrificed the ram in Isaac's place, smoke rising towards the heavens, a fragrant offering of gratitude and surrender. In that moment, on that mountaintop, Abraham's faith was forged anew.
He had looked into the face of despair and chosen trust.
He had stared into the abyss of loss and emerged stronger, his faith refined by fire. The ram, a symbol of God's mercy, served as a powerful reminder that God provides.
He provides not just in the material sense, but in ways we cannot begin to imagine.
He provides strength when we are weak, comfort when we are sorrowful, and hope when all seems lost. God had spared Isaac's life, showcasing his mercy and grace.
But more importantly, he had revealed the depth of his love for Abraham, a love so profound that it defied human understanding.
I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me.
On that mountain, God renewed his covenant with Abraham. Abraham descended Mount Moriah a changed man. He carried with him the weight of God's promises, the memory of his surrender, and the unwavering knowledge that God could be trusted, even when his ways were difficult to understand. The story of Abraham and Isaac is not just an ancient tale, it's a timeless message of faith, obedience, and the boundless love of a God who gives and takes away, who tests and refines, who calls us to trust him with every fiber of our being. This story, etched in the annals of faith, serves as a beacon of hope for all who face seemingly insurmountable challenges. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, God is present, his love unwavering, his provision sure. The echoes of that sacrifice on Mount Moriah resonate throughout history, whispering to us of a God who understands our fears, our doubts, and our deepest longings. He sees our hearts, knows our struggles, and calls us to a faith that dares to trust him, even when we don't understand.
We all face our own Moriahs in life. Moments when we are asked to surrender our fears, our desires, our very selves to a God who sees the bigger picture. It might be the loss of a loved one, a devastating diagnosis, a financial crisis, or a dream shattered. In those moments of testing, it's easy to question God's goodness, to doubt his love. We may be tempted to bargain, to plead, to demand answers. But it is precisely in those moments of surrender, when we lay our Isaac at the altar, that our faith is refined and our spirits are strengthened.
When the mountains of life loom large and the path ahead seems shrouded in darkness, remember Abraham. Remember his unwavering faith, his willingness to obey, and the God who met him on that mountaintop. God is still in the business of providing rams, of making a way when there seems to be no way.
He doesn't ask us to understand his ways, only to trust his heart. He doesn't promise us a life free of pain or sorrow, but he does promise to walk with us through every valley, to carry us when we are weary, and to never leave us nor forsake us. Your Isaac might be a cherished dream, a relationship, a possession, or a belief. Whatever it is that you hold dear, God may ask you to lay it on the altar. It's a terrifying prospect, a test of faith that can leave us feeling vulnerable and exposed.
But here's the beautiful truth. When we surrender our Isaac to God, when we trust him with the things we hold most dear, he meets us with his abundant grace and unwavering love. He provides, he heals, he restores.
So dear friend, when you find yourself facing your own Moriah, remember the God of Abraham. Trust in his goodness, surrender your fears, step out in faith even when you don't understand. For in the surrender, you will find his strength. In the letting go, you will discover his provision. And in the trusting, you will experience the fullness of his love.